Good morning. My name is Ben Holquist, and I use he, him pronouns. I serve as one of your Board of Trustees members, and I'm happy to welcome all of you on Zoom and in the sanctuary to the Tahoma Unitarian Universalist congregation. Just as a brief personal note, it's probably more of an announcement, but we are going to be participating in a dragon parade this afternoon for the Tacoma Revels. If you haven't heard of that, I would encourage you to look up Tacoma Revels. There are dragon parades this Sunday, next Sunday, and possibly one more beyond that. I can't remember. But you wander around a neighborhood covered in lights and watch a dragon breathe fire. It's pretty high quality entertainment. Unitarian Universalists are a community of people who hold many beliefs, many origins, identities, sexualities, and genders. We uphold and celebrate the inherent dignity of every person, which means you are welcome here just the way you are. Love is the power that holds us together as we gather in community to seek life's deeper meanings and to celebrate the diversity of all living things. We are all growing with and learning from one another. If you are here for the first time, we bid you a special welcome. After the service, I will be in the sanctuary over by the red table over there to answer any questions you may have about Unitarian Universalism or our congregation, or if you have questions about how to become involved in our community, just ask. I also encourage you to explore our website, tahomauu.com. At the website, you can sign up for our weekly e-news and that includes information about the important and fun events going on in the congregation life and how you can participate. Couple of announcements. We are still seeking volunteers for the Trans Day of Remembrance Vigil on Thursday, November 20th. That's this Thursday. From 6 to 7 p.m. Volunteers are asked to arrive at 5 p.m. We have over 300 names to honor, and it is important that each one is read aloud. If you're able to help, please sign up at the coffee table over there, red. Thank you for supporting this meaningful event. I'd like to call up Clara for a youth group announcement.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Clara. I'm in the youth group, and we are currently doing a winter coat drive. So, if you could donate coats, hats, gloves, pants, socks, and many other clothing items, that would be great. The winter coat drive is from November 16th to December 21st. Thank you for your time.
For those who may not have been in here, well, we now have a youth group. So we are seeing lots of wonderful growth with Sean, DRE Sean. I want to make two quick announcements. One is that the board meeting for November is going to be this Thursday, the 20th. It's the third Thursday. Normally this year we're meeting on the fourth Thursdays, but the fourth Thursday is Thanksgiving and the board decided we weren't that dedicated. That will also be true in December. It will be the third Thursday, not the fourth Thursday, because again, the Thursday is Christmas. The second thing is we are still looking for a stewardship drive committee lead and also a stewardship drive committee. Either one is valuable, but we would really love it if we could find a stewardship drive lead before December 31st. The stewardship drive is going to kick off next spring, but it takes a while to plan. It's not trivial. And we would really like a volunteer to step up. The board just does not have capacity to do everything else the board is doing and run the stewardship drive. We will happily work with the leader to mentor, and previous stewardship leaders will also mentor. So you will not be thrown on your own, I promise. And it does end in May, so it is not a full year commitment or anything like that. So if you could be interested, you can either talk to me or you can email board@tahomauu.com. All right. You're also invited to join us for social hour immediately following the service, right over there by the windows. For those of you who are newer to our community, we have red coffee mugs for you to use if you'd like to identify yourself and be approached by people who would enjoy getting to know you. If you are someone who would benefit from a large print hymnal or a hearing assistance device, they are available at the back of the sanctuary on the table. We want to remind everyone that our services are available through Zoom and posted on YouTube, which means if you come up front, your image may appear on these venues. As we begin our service in this beautiful place called Tahoma by local indigenous tribes and nations, I acknowledge that we meet today on the land of the Coast Salish people, including the Puyallup tribal nation, land from which they were forcibly displaced. I honor the resiliency of indigenous people and stand with them as they continue to protect their culture, land, and water, and fight for their visibility, sovereignty, and very existence. Lastly, please set your electronic devices to worship mode. Let us exhale deeply and settle ourselves into this holy moment of sharing and receiving. For those online, that was an announcement of the third Friday potluck, which is this Friday, and the Thanksgiving potluck, which is going to be on Thanksgiving. Signups are over there on red. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Stephanie Michaela Miller. Some of you know me well, some of you don't know me at all. Some of you know me as the wife of Remy May Tallow, who works back there. And then to the others, you'll know me as the guest speaker today. So I'd like to open up with our opening words. And this is a reflection on what I will be sharing with you folks today. Each of us walks through life wearing many uniforms, some visible, others unseen. Today, we gather to honor the parts of ourselves that seek fullness, even when the world asks us to fragment who we are. And I'll be followed by the lighting of the chalice.
Morning. My name is Debbie. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the celebrant this morning. I'd like to ask Loretta to come up to light the chalice. She's been a member of TUUC since the 80s. After she lights the chalice, I'll ask you to join to read the words that are on the screen. Thank you, Loretta. We light this chalice in deep respect for the mystery and holiness of life, in honor and gratitude for those who have gone before, with love and compassion for those who dwell among us, and with hope and faith for the generations to come.
Our opening hymn is in the teal hymnal 1008, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. The words will be on the screen. Please stand in body or spirit.
Hello. Okay. Good morning. Before I start the story for A Time for All Ages, I would like to ask that anybody who brought their donations for our food bank that we take every week two would hold them up so the children can come gather them from you. Ooh. We got lots. That's good. This is going to go. It's both a blessing and unfortunate that most of our children are down in out class right now. Right in the back. Okay. Okay. Two more cans, and I think we're good. Oh, thank you, everyone. Okay. Today I'm going to be reading a book called My Awesome Brother, written by Lisa Francis. I believe that's the way you say it. Okay. I think that's our cue to go down to class.
Good morning. I'm Charlie Kaparik, and I'm your chat chaplain for our service today. I mostly use he, him pronouns. As we gather in this welcoming place, I am inspired to do whatever I can to help keep our congregation strong. I'm grateful that I can make financial contributions, and I do what I can to help out in other ways. If you can, please help out financially. And there are many other ways to help this wonderful place thrive into the future. The ushers will pass around baskets, and there are baskets at the front to help support trans relocation and safe parking endeavors. Those joining online can hit the donate button to help support these causes as well. Thank you all for helping our community stay strong.
Thank you, Marianne. Please join me in the dedication. The words are on the screen behind us, behind me. We dedicate ourselves and our offerings to the work of this congregation, weaving a tapestry of love that we call community, both within and beyond these walls.
Our meditation hymn is in the gray hymnal, Spirit of Life, number 123. And the words again are on the screen. Please stand in body or spirit.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blowing on wind, rise in the sea. Move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
So I will now share a reading by Audre Lorde. For those of you who do not know who she is a Black lesbian feminist, but most notoriously known as a poet who used her words to express and sympathize with all the communities she belonged to. When we speak, we are afraid our words will not be heard or welcomed. But when we are silent, we are still afraid. So it is better to speak. I chose that reading as it means a lot to me, and with the conformity that I've had to serve with the last 20 years of my life. And that will be told throughout the sermon, and they kind of hit me in the heart with that one. So today's sermon was titled "In Uniform and Out, the Courage to Be Whole." Just a quick synopsis of what's going on is, through stories from my service in the Army, I explore how personal identity can both align with and resist the expectations of institutions. The sermon reflects on what it means to live authentically in spaces that often demand conformity, and how enduring one's truth is a form of courage in itself. Now, being that I'm a little different, I kind of broke the standard of the mold here, how the services are done. And being a former Army officer, there's going to be a presentation by PowerPoint behind me. So Michael, if we may move into that. So looking at life, everyone has a story to be told. And my story is very unique to myself. And as stated, I'm an Army officer. I am retired. The words that I use today are on my own. They are not the words of the United States Army or anything to do with the federal government. We all have a beginning and a truth to be told from that beginning. However, that truth is something to be spoken and not hidden. When I look back at my life, there's many things that you could assume of me or expect of me, or even I could present as. I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a sister, I'm a military brat, I'm a combat veteran, and I'm a retired United States Army officer. So my story begins through 3 phases of operations, as stated, military officer here. And my story begins, ironically, in Tacoma, Washington. Right down the street from here, my parents met. And so what we have up here behind me is a photo of my mom and dad meeting and their wedding. My dad grew up in Oregon. My mom grew up in California in a mixed racial family. Those are things that are greatly going to impact who I was being raised to who I am to today. They met here when my dad was a young Army officer. They fell in love. And from there, that's where my story begins. I was not born here. However, my brother probably was born at the old Madigan Annex at the old Fort Lewis. When we look at the beginning, my story kind of goes back to not so much my birth, but coming from the aspect of me as a military member. Don't ask, don't tell. February 28th, 1994, Don't Ask, Don't Tell by Bill Clinton was put into effect. This was the first opportunity that individuals from the LGBT community were allowed to serve, albeit not openly, they were allowed to serve. That means a lot for a lot of folks. As a service member, everybody has their own ambitions, their ideas, and what they strive for and how they want to serve and what it means to them. Growing up in a military family, my dad served 33 active duty years. I kind of had a calling. So at 19 years old, I did the right thing and I dropped out of college. Like any 19-year-old would think, there's a lot of excitement going on. And I enlisted, but that predates what was happening in that moment. Being around and amongst it my whole life, it was a higher calling to service. This wasn't just for my nation, but within my family. I'm a 7th generation military veteran within my family. The history is foretold so far back that it's almost amazing to think of the Millers doing something differently since we've come to this country hundreds of years ago. Looking at it, I have a brother, my brother as well as a service member. Ironically, my older brother joined the Army after I did. And as you see, there might be some confusion in all this, what you see behind me, because my beginning begins not as I stand before you today, but who I was and who I was assigned as when I was born 39 years ago. Michael, if we could go into phase 2, please. Phase 2, I call the warriors. So everyone knows September 11th, 2001 as the date that started the war on terrorism. And for those of us that were at some point in your life, wherever that was, that's a memory that is never going to be forgotten. I was in high school at the time and I was in theater class. And I just recall sitting there and the television being on and seeing this over and over and over and over again. My dad, ironically, was on leave that day and he got called back to service. With the heightened security, it took him 7 hours to get to work that day with 100% security checks. I like to laugh about that because I've been in a bathroom line before and I've never had to wait 7 hours to get somewhere important. September 11th means a lot, though. We know that as the start of the war, but for a lot of people, what they don't know is that was almost the cease of moving forward with trying to put the LGBT community forward within the military service. The highest ranking individual to die on September 11th was Lieutenant General Timothy J. Maude, a 3-star general. General Maude had been an ally, an advocate, and a proponent for the LGBT community and was working towards trying to remove the Don't Ask, Don't Tell. However, in times of war, things get pushed away. We set our feelings astride. And for those of you who have served, you know what it's like to bite the bullet, go with the mission, and set your own personal feelings and ideas aside. Well, what am I going to do? I'm 19 years old. You know me as somebody else. I'm at the time this young man you see there in the kind of middle left. And if you think that there's no uniformity to these photos behind you, that was my exact intention, because after 20 years of service, I kind of don't want to have that uniformity anymore. So I enlisted into the infantry. I thought if there was one thing that I could do, it was to serve my nation. So I raised my right arm at 19 years old. I swore an oath to allegiance to the Constitution. And then from there, I went back and I lived my life. It was slightly different now. I had been raised in the military. My dad is the most down-to-earth guy. My mom had been loving and supportive. I went through the war years with my dad while I was in high school. He was away. My brother's in college. It's just me and mom. And here it was now my time to serve. And I took that openly and graciously to be a part of that Miller tradition of serving. So March 24th, 2006 is what I call my initial entry date of service, albeit 20 years, 5 months, and 6 days is what we have on my retirement records. March 24th will be the day that I forever remember in my heart. I'm now serving in this kind of in a close-minded situation where I have set aside my own personal feelings. That beginning is not who I am still. We're going through life. Most of my life was spent growing up in the South. As a lot of people know, military bases seem to be focused down there. And a large percentage of our military population tends to come from there as well. When you're raised in the South, it's a little different than the West Coast, albeit my parents are from the West Coast. I didn't have the exposure that a lot of people had in other places. I was raised with the military and grew up in all these military towns. So I never saw a difference in folks. I never saw racism. I never saw poverty. These were things I didn't understand. But the one thing that I never saw that I always question is, why do I feel different inside? And why does society seem to look at it differently than what I feel inside? Well, that was bottled up because there was nothing that I could do during that time. The policy states I couldn't be who I was. I still took that allegiance and I served. I deployed multiple times, both near and far, doing my job. And throughout that period, there were some pretty remarkable experiences that I had. And one of them was meeting a service member. And this was something that I've hold close to me every day. I wasn't really raised in a Christian household, but Chuck Mathis was one of my former team members that I served alongside. Chuck joined the Army at 43 years old. This guy was a self-made millionaire who had all of his money wrapped up into corporate housing. Why would anybody join the Army at 43 years old when you're made? This is an age I haven't even reached yet. 20 years of service, I'm not 43, and here's Chuck joining the Army at 43 years old. Chuck was a deeply religious person, and his whole purpose in joining the military was to serve his country. Well, every day he would always mumble something that, not being a Christian, I never quite understood, but it always hit me hard. And verbatim, some of you folks might know this, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. I didn't understand what that meant, at least not to myself. Maybe Chuck, he knew what that meant to him. And I did my first deployment at 20 years old. At the time, you're just so full of energy and you think you're just doing the right thing. And you're kind of a robot that's going through another cog in the system, doing what it is told. And within that, you operate as a team because it becomes a whole machine. You can think of it as a holistic approach, but in reality, everybody is replaceable. So you start to think about, who am I and what is my personal identity? And Chuck would say this every day because this is where he felt his heart was. And at the time, it didn't mean anything to me. But when I was moving forward, here I was, my second tour, I'm in Iraq. I'm 23 years old. There's a lot going on. Why does I deploy? I'm in what we call the Fertile Crescent, the birth of Western civilization. And within there, I get to go to St. Elijah's Monastery. So St. Elijah's Monastery is in Mosul, or is formerly known as the Nineveh province of Iraq. So Nineveh is very biblical. And while we toured this monastery, and this is myself as not a Christian, you could see the hand marks from plaster being placed on the walls. The monastery was built in 300 AD, roughly I think 318. Throughout its history, it served as a Christian monastery, a mosque, a place of sanctuary and pilgrimage for those to go to. We're talking about a place that has such a diverse culture, but this was sacred ground. And here I am standing there 1700 years later, not understanding. And in that moment, I kind of felt an understanding of what Chuck meant. But to me, it was still a lot of confusion, because when you're in Iraq, you think about everything that's being preached. I received a sermon there from an army chaplain in Iraq's oldest Christian monastery. that sounds pretty unreal, but the unreal part is when you're 23 years old and you're in warfare and you're doing things that back home in the United States, nobody understands what you're doing. You're living this life day in and day out. You don't know what's going to happen the next day. And when you return, you're expected to be this normal person who's a part of society, fits in, does their job, works hard, and goes through life. Well, I question things. And at 23 was when I really started to question where I was in the system and who I was as a person. And so what I brought with me today is, I call it my war journal. And there's a lot of words in here and some notes. And I went through here and I reviewed this. And I want to share with you guys some of these things that I felt were the most impactful to who I was as a person. Now, would this have happened to me if I stayed in college and went that route? Maybe, maybe not, because we can look at trauma in so many different situations. We drive down the road, we see a car accident. There's a lot of trauma involved in that. People suffer PTSD from that. But most of us will probably get in our car and continue to drive to our destination. But these moments I'm going to share with you, they've sat with me for the last 15 years of my life in a different way than most people could ever relate to. And so I will just read it verbatim. My details aren't graphic in nature, but the thought process there captured a lot. And so this is from June 5th, 2010, and I titled it as a news flash. Took a couple of trips up to Mosul. One of them, we received mortar fire. The other, I saw a dead boy and a man at an IP checkpoint. An IP checkpoint's Iraqi police. Yesterday, an AODT security team was coming in the gate. They had a casualty that was being worked on in the first truck. On the way out, I noticed that the armor of the man was in the back of the truck, covered in blood. The badging office told me to flag them down. So what does that mean right there is the badging office is these guys that kind of run all our security systems in the camera. I was running a gate with a security checkpoint. They brought this casualty through in the first vehicle. We had the gates open. He's coming in there. You feel like you're doing something amazing. This individual is going to have their life saved that day. I'm being told to flag them down and then to bring them back. I'm very confused because this was a gorgeous day, completely blue skies, not a cloud, no breeze. And here's what I'm starting to learn is the wounded individual was refused a medevac. The only medical personnel on Q West at the time was our medics. That means I looked into the eyes of a man 5 minutes prior who is now a KIA. When they came back, they collected their buddy. They put him in the back of their vehicle. And I labeled it as another individual, dead individual, and for what? I spoke to the team leader. This was the security team. These guys were from all around the world doing the job of America. We like to joke and say spreading democracy and Rippets. Rippets an energy drink. If you ever deploy, it's like the Budweiser of energy drinks. I'm talking to this team leader. I'm 23 years old. This guy's a lot older than me. He's got more life experiences, trying to make sense of what I just witnessed and what just happened. I questioned a lot that day. I questioned myself. I questioned my leadership. I questioned my belief in being and why I was in Iraq. I'm going to fast forward a little bit. June 16th, 2010. I believe it to be arrogance to want to be the last Americans here. And with so little help, fob security is low, and there's room for any absence of soldier, none whatsoever. I was on Q West. It was our company. Our company had about 85 personnel. We're running different types of operations. I was running security. We had people that are doing a quick reaction force. We had folks that were doing security for convoys in and out as the fob was shutting down. So at any given time, you probably have got 40 people on this outpost that's larger than you can defend, and your next security element's a quarter mile away. And I called it the arrogance for wanting to be there. Why were we there? I start to look back. The war was started because of September 11th, but I'm questioning, why am I in Iraq? Well, we started the war because it was the war on terrorism and we had a terrorist strike in our country. I felt a calling. You brought it to our soil. Let's take it to yours. I was not on their soil. I was in a place that had been holy and sacred for the last millennia, on top of millennia, we could say eons. And I questioned life in that moment. But I came home. And when I came home, I was a different person that time. But that's okay, because I had done my duty and I'd done my job. So things continue through there, and I continue my college education. Some of the benefits that come from the military on my generation are incredible. My VA home loan, my VA benefits, my GI Bill. I have 2 college degrees that I have not paid for, other than through blood, sweat, and tears. Your tax dollars, as well as mine, have allowed me to be here as somebody who's educated. And what did I do? I felt the need to give back further. So I raised my right arm once again, and I took an oath, this time not as an enlisted soldier, but as a commissioned officer. Things are kind of changing in this time. Don't ask, don't tell had been repelled. Great, we can openly serve. However, there's an asterisk there. That asterisk is the only people that qualified under that were those that would be considered LGB. There's no T in there. I am now serving silent yet again, this time as a commissioned officer. I go into society, people look at me. Here's a commissioned officer. You have to be appointed by the President of the United States, sworn in, approved by the Congress to be where you are. That's a lot to say. And if we fast forward, the words that are shared about trans service members are anything but what we are. They like to use words such as lack of merit. I stand before you with 2 meritorious service medals. I am silent at the time, though. That silence was something that I wanted to break. I got to a point at this stage in life where I couldn't be silent and I needed to live my truth. I had known who I was for a long time. I had thought about these things, but they never made sense. I'd never met a trans person. I was 21 the first time I met one, and now I'm 28 years old and a commissioned officer. A lot's happening here. June 30th, 2016, lift on trans service members. Great. It wasn't until October 7th of 2016 that the Army announced the guidelines for those that are trans to actually formally transition. I'm going to put this in perspective. If you think that you've gone through something that is difficult, like you got to file for your mortgage when you want to get a home loan, I had to go through so many different checks. It took me years to get where I was. And I never faltered in that because I knew who I was and who I wanted to be. And I was finally at that point when I can serve openly. No. April 1st, 2019, Trump puts out a directive banning trans service members. Those of us that were fortunate enough to transition right before that were allowed to maintain who they were. Those of us that had not transitioned fully within the eyes of the Army's guidelines, which included about 50 pages worth of documents, were not allowed to transition. I continue to serve. Right after that date, I became a captain in the United States Army. I continue to do my service. I'm at Captain's Career Course. It's 2020, 2019, and 2020. I can no longer hold this in. I tell my then wife who I am and who I have to be. I told her many years before and she'd laughed it off, so I buried it deep inside. I carried that pain between my time in Iraq as a soldier, bearing that, between myself, bearing who I am. I just shut down in so many different ways. And I became that cog in the machine once again. I went to work, I did my job, I took care of my people. However, I wasn't taking care of myself, and that's important. When I finally came out, It was the biggest weight that I'd ever lifted off on my chest. The scariest thing I'd ever done as a combat veteran was to come out to my friends, my family, and my coworkers. So I began going through this process, and it is weighted. I go through a lot of difficulties. There's problems at the home. There's problems at work. I'm taking the steps. Socially, I was very accepted. Everyone has their thoughts about who the military is. I had never been so supported by anyone as my coworkers. And at this point, I'm actually going to do a shout out. Jen, can you raise your hand? So in the back is Jen Messina, Captain, United States Army. Jen has been a great ally of mine, an advocate and a proponent. Jen and I deployed together. She was on my final deployment. This is an amazing time in my life. I get to be who I truly am, not only outside of work, but for the first time, I'm being myself in uniform. And I have an amazing experience to share with you. If we can go to the next one, please, Michael. Today's probably one of the greatest days in.
Wow. You heard it right from the source.
Steph Flippin Miller. 18 and a half years I'd been in the Army, and finally, I can be who I am. I was given the opportunity to finally be myself. All the surgeries, all of the time getting lasered, all the hardships of society being bear down on me, I could finally be true to myself, my family, my work. I am complete. No. January 25th, 2021, February 7th, 2025, Hegseth pushes forward a ban on trans service members. Where the heck am I at when that date goes on? Well, I'll tell you where I'm not. I'm not in the United States because I'm deployed at the time. And yet here they are stating that trans service members are not equal, that we are too weak to serve in the military, that we are unfit for duty, that we cannot be deployed because we're mentally unstable. Well, I just served the last 18 and a half years, and here I am on my whatever deployment number, serving proudly alongside Jen Messina. So something amazing happened during that time. If we can go to the next one, please. It's getting close to my time. I've been in the Army for 19 years. I am defeated, but I am proud and I am strong. This is a shout out to Jen once again. March 1st. Right there in the center is a quote that I shared on social media. Amidst the chaos, a moment of pure beauty. At 5:24 a.m., from a quiet hotel room in Thailand, I was reborn by way of District Court 1 in Olympia, Washington, where the clock read 2:24 p.m. A single moment stretched across time and distance, uniting past and future. I have been reincarnated. I was legally Stefanie Michaela Miller. I've been in the Army for 19 years under a different name. Everyone's known me from day one as Steph Miller. Here I am, Steph Miller, in a different context. I now have a license. I now have a driver's license that says who I am. The power of that is incredible. Well, May 6, 2025, the Supreme Court allows enforcement of the ban on transgender service members. That sucks. What does that mean for me? I can't wear my uniform anymore. There's a post right there on the left side. That's from May 30th. May 30th was the last day I was ever in uniform. And I shared it as that day. At 19, I dropped out of college and enlisted, searching for something more, something bigger than myself. 19 plus years later, I took the uniform off one last time. There have been many changes over the years, rank, duty stations, even the fabric on my back. But the commitment never wavered. Today marks the end of an era. Retirement is a few months away. And for the first time, I get to explore a life I've never really lived, which was my own. Here's to closing one chapter with pride and stepping into the next with hope. Over those next few months, I got to be myself. Not in the capacity of the once glorified uniform that I'd worn for the previous 19 years of my life. That was stripped from me. I was not allowed to go to an Army retirement service because we were not allowed to wear a uniform. What you see is a photo of me on my retirement. Ironically, the first day of the government shutdown. My retirement was provided to me from a government contractor because all the civilians had been furloughed at the time. There I was in civilian clothes. At that point, I didn't care anymore. I had a nose ring. I had my large piercings, totally violating the policy. However, I felt violated myself, and I was going to be who I was, and that's Steph Miller. So I retired. It was very difficult to accept that I was retired at that time. However, I took it as a blessing because at 39 years old, and after 20 years of giving my adult life, I get to start my life new. I have a wonderful wife, Remy Talu, as you guys know her, Board of Trustees member here. She's been a part of my life. She's accepted me for who I am. She's been through the deployment. She's seen me at the highest point in my life where I loved what I did to my lowest point of having to take off the uniform. But I will count my blessings because I get to go forward, and I got to share this story with you folks today. And so from there, this kind of leads into the intention of the week. And my intention, may we feel the strength to stand in our truth, not as the world defines us, but as our hearts know us to be. From here, we will go into our closing hymn.
The closing hymn is number 298 in the gray hymnal. Please stand in body or spirit.
Break now my senses and hear the echo. Feel the deep power of being all. Keep with the whim of creation your vow. Giving, receiving now.
Excuse me, folks, I apologize. The closing words I'd like to share with you today. Let us carry forward the quiet bravery of authenticity in our work, in our communities, and in our hearts. For when we live as our true selves, we remind others that they too are free to be whole. Now we'll extinguish the chalice.
Excuse me, after Steph extinguishes the chalice, if we could read the words that are on the screen. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Closing blessing song. Please join us for coffee.